Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Blame It on the Stars, where we give you an inside look to what's going on in the universe so you can blame your problems on the stars. It is Jade here.
And it's Kara.
And this week, we'll be talking all about everything that happens during Gemini season, so you get an entire overview of what to expect and know what you're getting into up front. But in case you missed it, last week we talked all about Jupiter entering Taurus, which is there for a whole year, plus also the new moon in Taurus. So if you'd like to know more about that, then definitely listen to last week's episode before diving into this one.
And just to give you a heads up, next week we will tell you everything you need to know about the full moon in Sagittarius and how it affects you.
And after a short ad break, we're going to get right into it. So, Gemini season. There's a lot of things that happen, including the sun entering Gemini and Mars entering Leo. These things happen first, so we will explain them more in depth now. But some of the other things that happen during Gemini season, including Venus in Leo, the full moon in Sagittarius, the new moon in Gemini, Pluto leaving Aquarius, Saturn retrograde, and Mercury entering Gemini, happen a little bit further out from now. We'll explain them now so you kind of know what's coming up, but you can also expect all of those transits to have their own episodes. So the first thing that happens, technically happens right before Gemini season begins, but this transit will be happening throughout the duration of Gemini season, so we're talking about it now, is Mars entering Leo. This happens on May 20th at 11:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Per usual, the date and time are from the website astroseek.com. Now, what you need to know about this, Mars is our motivation and Leo energy is very confident. When you put the two together, you have a little bit more motivation to put yourself out there into the world.
Because Leo is a fixed sign and Mars will be in Leo, you might find that you are more consistent in working towards your goals. You also might be more bold and open to taking risks and trying new things.
So, the first key date you'll need to pay attention to when Mars enters Leo is actually the day of this transit. May 20th, Mars will be opposite Pluto. Now, what you can expect with this is just an added layer of passion and intensity when it comes to going after the things you want in life.
And then on May 23rd, Mars will be square Jupiter. Again, squares do bring about some tension, and Jupiter expands whatever energy it touches. So you might find that you are a little bit restless and impatient. However, there is a plus side of being very ambitious during this time.
And the next thing that happens is on May 24th, Mars will be square the North and South node. What you can expect with this is just this added layer of urgency when it comes to pursuing the things you're working on currently.
And then on June 26th, Mars will be square Uranus. This day could be challenging because Uranus brings about a lot of unexpected changes. So it's hard to know exactly what to expect when these two planets are interacting.
So when does Gemini season actually begin? Gemini season starts when the sun enters Gemini on May 21st at 3:09 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. How this affects you. While the sun is in Gemini and it's Gemini season, you find that you tend to be a little bit more curious to learn new things, and you tend to value intellectual pursuits for that matter.
Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury deals with our thinking and communication. So during Gemini season, you might find that you're more talkative or that you're interested in learning new ideas, whether that is through podcasts or books or just really enjoying having conversations with other people. Keep in mind, though, that Gemini is a more lighthearted and curious energy, so you might not be taking things very seriously during this time. You might find that you're sending memes to your friends, watching comedies, things like that.
Now, there are some key dates you're going to want to pay attention to. These are the aspects the sun will make during Gemini season. The first one is the day of Gemini season. When it begins, May 21st, the sun will be trine Pluto. Trines are positive aspects, and this transit is excellent for feeling a little bit more focused and also getting in touch with your own personal power.
Then on May 22nd, the sun will be sextile Mars. Mars brings a lot of motivation, ambition, and drive. to whatever planet it touches, because the sun does deal with our identity and the things that we do. You might find that you are really embodying that Mars energy, feeling a little bit more motivated, accomplishing a lot of things, very focused on working towards your goals.
And then on May 28th, the sun will be square Saturn. Now, squares do bring some tension, but one thing you can expect with the sun square Saturn is that there's an emphasis on practicality, persistence, and perseverance.
The last aspect that the sun makes happens on June 18th. The sun will be square Neptune. Squares do bring about some tension, and Neptune can be a more confusing planet. So you might find that you are looking for some clarity about your goals and aspirations on that day. You also might be a little bit more in touch with your emotions.
So everything else that happens during Gemini season, we're going to talk about it now so you know what to expect. But as we mentioned earlier, you can expect all of these to have their own episodes. The next thing that happens during Gemini season is the full moon in Sagittarius. This happens on June 3rd at 11:41 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, how this affects you. Full moons are times of releasing, and Sagittarius deals with our philosophies in life. So during this time, you might find that you are shedding some old philosophies or ideals you held for yourself in the past.
There will be some interesting aspects happening at the time of this full moon. The moon will be trine Mars, which is helpful when we are thinking about releasing things. However, the sun and moon will also be square Saturn, which will bring about some challenges. But again, we will go into more detail in that episode.
Now, the next thing that happens during Gemini season is Venus entering Leo. This will happen on June 5th at 9:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. What you can expect with this is there is a lot more room for creativity in your life. And again, with that confident Leo energy, you might find that you're wanting to put yourself out there more when it comes to your social life.
Even though we really enjoy the Venus in Leo energy, it's really important to note that this transit will not be a typical one because we have a lot of other outer planets in fixed signs. So Venus will be making harsh aspects to Pluto, Uranus, Jupiter, and the nodes. In addition to all of those aspects, Venus will eventually retrograde in the sign of Leo. Again, more details to come, but just know that there's a lot going on with this transit.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about Venus and Leo in its own episode, and then eventually we'll talk about the Venus retrograde as we get closer to that. It's not until midsummer, but just to have that in the back of your mind. But speaking of retrogrades, there's one planet that's already retrograde, but it's something you should just know about, Pluto. Pluto is currently retrograde, but on June 11th at 5:46 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Pluto will retrograde into Capricorn. So what you need to know with that is Pluto in Aquarius is done for the year. We will not be experiencing Pluto in Aquarius after June 11th until 2024. But the next thing that happens on that exact same day is Mercury entering Gemini. Again, that's June 11th, but this will happen at 6:27 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Something you should know about this is that communication will flow a lot easier. You'll find that you're a lot more curious to learn things, to share more, and to express yourself.
Overall, this should be a pretty good transit. Mercury is at home in the sign of Gemini, so that is always something to look forward to. There will be some good aspects and a few more challenging aspects like a square to Saturn and Neptune.
Speaking of Saturn, Saturn will station retrograde in Pisces on June 17th at 1:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, how this affects you, you might not really notice this too much, but during Saturn retrogrades, it's typically a period of time where we do some inner reflection, especially on any lessons we might have learned while Saturn was direct.
You also might notice that things are changing around you and you might have to adapt to new circumstances in your everyday life.
And then the last thing that happens during Gemini season is the new moon in Gemini. This will happen on June 18th at 12:36 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So what you need to know with this is new moons are new beginnings, where we set intentions around those Gemini themes of learning and communicating.
As you are setting your intentions for this new moon, do know that the new moon will be square Neptune, which can bring about some confusion. However, Neptune is a more optimistic energy and it might bring a more positive energy to the new moon.
That's pretty much it for Gemini season. But if there's a question you have about anything that's coming up and how it might affect you on a more personal level, then I would suggest a reading. This is your reminder. We do offer readings. Readings are hosted on an app called Intro, which allows for FaceTime style calls. We have readings for as short as 15 minutes to as long as 1 hour. You decide what you want to talk about and who you want to talk about it with. When you go to book the reading, there is a slot where you can type in all of your questions and we'll be able to answer everything you want to know face to face on the call.
And if you've never booked a reading with us before, then you can use the code STARS, all caps, STARS, for $20 off your first reading.
And just a reminder, next week we'll be diving deep into the full moon in Sagittarius. So if you want to know more about that, then definitely stay tuned for next week. But if you want to stay in the loop with us and everything that's to come in astrology, then make sure you're following us on social media. We are on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at BLME The Stars. That is all for now, and we'll see you all next Monday. Bye.